This is hot, Francisco.
Symmetrical episode stacking. Just like the mass feed burner turbulence of 2007.
You're right. No human could stack episodes like this.
Listen. You smell something? It's probably this episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Reflux capacitor fluxing. Crew to stations. Scanning for Ghostbusters 1984. Prepare to rewind in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, Rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the master.
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Interrupter powers. Also, for this discussion of the film Ghostbusters, we welcome a full crew complement aboard our ship called the Pod to help contain the ghouls and ghosts, starting with newest guest. He's host and producer of the Enthusiast podcast. Thank you for being here, David Gardner.
Permission to come aboard, Captain.
Permission granted. I appreciate the people that asked for permission to come aboard. In addition to David, our ship's chef is going from the odd to the paranormal. Welcome back, Earth Oddities podcast host, Christopher Tiny Sullivan.
What up, Oddcasters?
What up?
Oddcasters?
Oddcasters.
Oh, Oddcasters. Awesome. And now that we have a quick flyby of who we are.
Whoa!
Oh, Dallas is here. Oh, well, let's introduce Dallas then, apparently. Finally, we out of the blue, we might just be able to exercise this film's ecto emitters because clergy chief and creator of Geek Devotions, Dallas Mora, is back on board. Inexplicably.
What's going on, Devoted Geeks? How y'all doing?
What's going on, Dallas? Glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here too, suddenly.
Now that you have a quick flyby, anyone else going to join us? Okay, I think that's it. Now that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for Ghostbusters?
Sure, Ghostbusters, Never mind, I was going to go into the 2000s, Answer the Call one, but you want the original Ghostbusters.
Preferably.
It came out in June 8th of 1984, runs an hour and 45 minutes, and is rated PG with strong parental guidance. It was directed by Ivan Reitman and written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, with lead stars being Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, and even Carl Winslow, the cop from Family Matters and Die Hard, along with some other
bit.
Yeah, and there's some other people in there you may or may not recognize. The music was composed by Elmer Bernstein, or Bernstein, depending on who you talk to.
I think it's Stein.
Right.
The I's after the E, so it's Stein.
All right, there you go. All right, you ready for the box office trivia game?
I am ready. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
Okay. Ghostbusters was made for about $30 million and earned over $280 million in the box office worldwide.
Nice.
Awesome.
So given this and the fact that it's in the top 25 box office films of 1984, how high do you think it ranks among the top 25 films of 1984 worldwide?
Ooh, okay. Let's start with David first. What do you think of 25 movies?
I'm going to go number 1.
Whoa, okay. Right at the top from 1984. Nice.
$1.
Tiny, how about you?
Well, I was going to go number 1, but since that's already taken, I'll go number 3.
3? Okay. Dallas, are you going to do number 2 at me?
I'm going to do number 10.
Number 10. All right.
Ooh, nice.
In chat, let's see. We have Bobo says number 3. Ashley says 18. For me, I'm going to guess 5. I'm going to guess it's number 5. So
All right.
With that, Paul, where did Ghostbusters end up in the top 25?
Domestically, it was number 1, but worldwide, it was number 3. So good job, Tiny.
So Tiny
Nice.
and Bobo. Well done, well done. Awesome.
What beat it? Do we have any idea what?
Yeah,
beat
the
it?
movie we're reviewing for this year's Christmas, which is Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh, really? That was an
okay.
84 movie also?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Crazy. Okay.
And The guy who was too busy filming Beverly Hills Cop came in at number 2, Eddie Murphy.
With Beverly Hills Cop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were alluding to something else, but okay.
No, well, yeah, that the role of Winston Zedmore was originally offered to Eddie Murphy, and he turned it down
we'll
to
get
do.
into that later, Paul.
Oh, didn't know. Sorry.
Jeez, stop
Spoilers.
stealing my thunder.
Well,
But-
somebody ask number 2.
Okay,
what am I supposed to do?
You know what? As much
Who's
as
number
I
2?
don't want you
And who does he
spoiling the
work
rest,
for?
I do thank you, Paul, for those factoids. And let's see
you're
if
welcome.
any of them factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we will get into once Alice has located our target film.
Alert, alert. Approaching target. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
Ghosts. They're real. They're here. And someone's got to stop them. It's a job for professionals. It's a job for the Ghostbusters.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
They're the best. The brave. The only. Ghostbusters. Coming to save the world this summer.
We're ready to believe you.
Who you gonna call? Rated PG.
They may be ready to believe you, but will you believe our memories of this movie? Let's find out after we merge our memories of Ghostbusters into this memory mind meld synopsis. 2 brothers, an ape, and a talking car. Oh, wait, wrong Ghostbusters. Dark forces are lurking in New York and apparently enjoy libraries and art. Venkman talks Ray into selling his farm so they can get an old firehouse from the Ghostbusters.
Form the Ghostbusters.
Form the Ghostbusters and blow all their petty cash before they got one. Don't look in the trap. I looked in the trap. Bill Murray's character falls in love with an actor-director who is also
An art director.
art director who is also being courted by evil. This is a mind meld. Things get fuzzy sometimes, Paul.
All right, then I won't interrupt anymore.
Okay. But that's your job. But then the landlord of Sigourney Weaver's building gets possessed by a demon dog, transforming him into the keymaster while Weaver herself is transformed into the gatekeeper. Die Hard reporter looses all the ghosts. Then the final showdown comes down to the team facing their biggest fears, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Gozer the Destroyer gets beaten by crossing the streams, and all the ghosts magically disappeared. Or did they? I mean, some of those memories were right, but some of them were actually kind of, decepted. But based on those memories, as somewhat flawed as they were, what rating did they lead you to predict for this movie before rewatching it? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? David, what was your prediction for this film?
I predicted nostalgic.
Nostalgic. All right. And Tiny, how about you?
I'm going classic.
Classic? What? Dallas?
I was going to vote for nostalgic.
Nostalgic. Okay. Paul?
Before watching this film, I predicted classic.
Classic. And for me, I did classic ? Because it's been so long. I'm thinking, I think it'll hold up, but I was trepidatious. So I did do a very hesitant classic prediction. But it'll be interesting to see if those predictions came true. But first, let's get into our discussion of the things we liked most about Ghostbusters. Let's spin up our
Best 3.
which will actually be best 2. But since there's 5 of us, let's start though with our newest guest, David. What's one thing you liked about Ghostbusters?
I would have to say mine, it would have to be the music.
Okay.
Not only the soundtrack by Elmer Bernstein, but like the Mickey Mouse scene of the music. Like when they're climbing the stairs, it's a very plotting music. But when Ray, the front of the line, walks through the doorway, the music changes to like curiosity as they're looking around at the destroyed thing. And also the song "Cleaning Up This Town" by Kevin O'Neill, sung by the Bus Boys, kind of when things were going a little crazy for the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I actually had that down too. The music cues throughout the film varies all over the place, but it so sets the mood for the story and the journey that it takes you on. I thought it was very well, very I was about to say non-traditional in a lot of ways, but in a good way for the film.
Yeah, it felt. Yeah, sometimes I would feel like music like that is a bit too on the nose, but I think it walked that line really well, that it didn't ever sort of overstay its welcome. It always just seemed to like just give you sort of a brief emotional sense of where you were, and then it would fade back. It was almost like, you know how whenever in a sitcom it transitions to a new place and you get like the beatboxing in Seinfeld or the stinger in Friends. Yeah. Stuff. It felt like that. It wasn't, it just let you know, hey, we're shifting how you should be feeling right now, but we're not going to like beat you over the head with it. Did Tiny, was the music something you liked, or was there another part of this film that really resonated with you?
Well, I also really enjoyed the music, but I gotta say that the effects, while they definitely are showing their age, I think they still hold up pretty good, even for 2020. I mean, don't get me wrong, it doesn't look like a CGI fest that we see nowadays, but I thought the effects, especially for 1984, were really, really well done.
So you prefer the 2016 Ghostbusters visual effects, then, is what you're saying?
No, I don't.
Huh? I'm confused.
I agree with Tiny. I thought there are some effects that still hold up today, like the Ghostbusters guns, the streams and everything. As cheesy animated as some of the purple lightning is, it's still a lot of fun to look at, and it's still. I think, like I said, holds up today.
Okay.
I thought the very first Ghost librarian, especially when she like shifted into the skeleton, that was really cool.
Yeah,
even today,
totally. It's a good morph, and I don't think they had like. I think the first time there's really like actual computer augmented morphing effects was in Willow, which were you with us for Willow, Tiny?
I was here for Willow.
So I think, and this predates that. So yeah, I'm not. That must have been some sort of. I don't know how they achieved that, but yeah, that was really well done. So the effects for Tiny, Dallas, were the effects something that you liked, or was there another
aspect? It was the effects and it's just the practicality of everything. I mean, the practical effects were awesome. Like when you're in the library seeing things floating back and forth, it was real. Like I actually prefer the practical effects over their ghosty effects.
Absolutely.
Like, even down to the puppets, like when they had the demon dogs.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they weren't moving.
Yeah. When they were statues?
But like when
or
they
just
were like
sitting there growling.
And all those, like they were really great, well done practical items there.
Absolutely.
Even down to like some of the set designs, and like when they were in public, like everything was just so practical. So that was one of my highlights.
It definitely felt like they're in, I've never been to New York, but it definitely felt like they were there. It didn't seem like they were on a sound stage for most of the time. Yeah.
I went to New York once, and obviously not during the 80s. And I know for a fact, I was talking to some New Yorkers when I was there, and they said it's very different from the 80s. It's safer. But from what my experience, man, a lot of it was like, this is definitely New York.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, for me, guys, I may speak to the visual effects here in a little bit, but the first thing I liked that I jotted down was I guess I'll say the relational sparring or swordplay that Dana, Sigourney Weaver's character, and Venkman, Bill Murray's character have. I just enjoyed their back and forth and how they didn't really like each other, but they did, and it felt authentic that these opposites, these very opposite people, would be intrigued by each other. I mean, certainly Venkman was more intrigued by Dana at the start, but that you could tell she was a little off put, like when he would obviously go overboard, but there's still an element like, I don't know about you. This is interesting. Probably way more interesting than the stiff of the.
I don't think she said interesting. I think she said get out.
But you know what? You gotta read her eyes.
And Venkman, I think he liked her, but he wasn't willing to go to a lot of trouble to date her.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
He had a plan though. He was like, "I'll just hand her ghost issue, and we're good to go." I mean, that's like a solid plan.
That's true. I liked how their relationship built up, and I loved a lot of the interrelational the interrelations of these characters. That was definitely like, but that one I like the most. Now, guys, let's get into our classic makers, the things that make this movie super special, the things we love the most to each one of us. Paul, I'm going to start with you this time.
Oh man, this is hard to put into, but I'll give it a shot. To me, this movie on paper doesn't work or shouldn't work that well because it seems like it's a goofy concept.
So you don't like the novelization, is what you're saying.
But what I really like about it is that these comedians in this goofy concept, the actors and everything and everybody involved took it seriously. They started it off slow and they made it put it in a believable setting. And I like that I don't think it would have worked as well if they just tried to make like a silly, hey, let's do a quote unquote ghost Terminator movie, kind of like it could but somehow all the stars aligned, and like I've seen Stripes and I've seen Meatballs and all these other comedies that this cast has been a part of, and for some reason this is a step above all their other ones in films, in my opinion. And I'm not giving away my final answer because I don't really care for their other comedies. But
I hate Ghostbusters too.
I think why it works, in my opinion, better than their other films is that they take it more seriously, and I think it's a better film because of that.
I can totally see that. Yeah, they do definitely play it straight. I mean, Venkman, right. I think Bill Murray does a lot of
he walks the line.
He walks the line. Yeah. He's definitely pointing out the things that are ridiculous, but you get the sense that he would do that of anything. It's not just ghosts. So I definitely appreciate that. Okay, so that's the thing you like the most. I can totally get behind that, Paul. Tiny, what was the thing that made your classic maker?
This kind of echoes Paul, but I was just going to say the cast in general. I thought that every single character had their role. I didn't feel like anybody was there without like a job to do per se.
Yeah.
And they were all great characters.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the cast as a whole.
I'll say even like the minor characters of the EPA guy, who's also from Die Hard, along with Carl Winslow. Apparently they are always in the same movies together or something. But him and the mayor and the priest, I thought even though they were used for such a short amount of time, they were really great. I loved what they brought to this. So I'm totally with you guys there. Let's go then to David next. You're a classic maker.
Well, I'm also gonna hop onto the cast train. That was my classic maker. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Tiny.
You're welcome.
And that they fit their roles very well. Even Winston, the average New Yorker, thrown in. And I also kind of liked, especially at that final scene when they're about to go to the tower, the crowd. You've got these priests crossing. You've got the rabbis. I don't know what they're doing, but they're praying. All these people are praying, and other people are like, so even the crowd, the casting of the crowd was even what made that movie, part of the movie, very well.
Awesome. Yes, totally. All right, well then that leaves Dallas. Yeah, Dallas. And then myself.
Was it the cast?
Was it the cast?
All right, so it's kind of the cast. It's just the comedic timing. Like the timing of because they played it straight so well the entire time. But at the same time, like I think Bill Murray and the other characters, they put in just the right moment, a level of comedy, but it still comes off as this is almost a serious film. And so I appreciated that, because it's hard, because sometimes, like what Paul was saying, like those other movies the guys did, it was just stupid the entire time. Stripes and all those other ones, it just, you're like, okay, come on. But this one, they found that nice blend of, we're taking ourselves serious, but here's something fun for us to do now.
I honestly haven't seen Stripes or Caddyshack, or I think you guys mentioned another one. But I get the sense that the comedy from in this film comes out of the characters, like what the characters, how the characters are approaching the situation they're in, as opposed to in those movies, is it more like like setting up jokes everywhere?
No,
Oh, okay.
they're characters that play, react to what's going on and accordingly. It's just
Okay.
yeah.
All right, well then never mind. So apparently you guys and me are flip-flopped because the effects were my classic maker.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I am such a fan of the like lightning and proton pack animations of this era of films. Like you go back to the Future and the time travel DeLorean effects and lightning, like all that type of lightning and special effects animation work. I think it looks so vivid and so, I don't know. It's almost like it doesn't look like it's animated, but at the same time, it doesn't look so glossy as CG. And it's weird because I know CG can look so much more real, but I think this almost makes it feel like it's using this type of animation. It evokes a sense of, I don't know if I want to say it evokes a sense of place,
nostalgia.
I mean, maybe it's honestly nostalgia. And if kids saw it today, it's like, ugh, that looks crappy. Why doesn't it look better? I don't know. It just seems to fit. I guess it just fits really well. It doesn't look out of place.
It definitely looks like an 80s movie, but I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
For someone who grew up in the 80s, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
But even with it being an 80s movie, like it's like there's a feel to 80s movies that I think some people would be put off by, and I don't think that some people would be terribly put off by some of what we see here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
totally. So that's fun that we sort of flip flop, guys. You guys, we all seem to like the characters, though I think David actually was the music. So thank you for being different from everyone else, David.
Yes.
David's keeping this podcast interesting.
Exactly. Oh, I guess Paul liked the music too. But regardless, you know what, guys? You know what?
Did you forget something this early?
Well, sorry. Sometimes
we need to get you some sticky notes.
I'm going through. I'm going through my
your head.
Show outline, and it's like, oh, okay, likes, and then wait, yeah, I do have one more like. It's Spirit Blade Productions. Since 2006, Peter Franson has been operating Spirit Blade Productions to create entertainment and resources that equip, encourage, and inspire Christian geeks. And soon after starting his indie studio, Peter expanded to include a ton more content and community under the banner of Christian Geek Central. I am personally a big fan of what Peter does, and you can join me in supporting him on Patreon so that you and I can help keep his ministry going and growing. Not to mention, your support can unlock fun rewards for you to enjoy. Head over to patreon.com/spiritblade productions for all the details, and I will throw in that Peter, if by the time you're listening to this, it's not too late if you get this right after you download it in
if you listen to this before November 7th, 2020.
Yes. Peter will be doing his annual 24-hour video game live stream raising money for Extra Life, which is a charity for children's hospitals. But yeah, he's doing that on Saturday, November 7th, 2020. And if you're listening to this after that, just wait for next year. I think he tries to do it every year. But you can watch that on YouTube.
That's great. But what does that have to do with Ghostbusters?
Sometimes he plays scary games to keep himself up in the middle of the night, and this has some scary elements.
Wow, that actually does tie in.
One in five, like that kid from Mighty Ducks.
It could happen.
Exactly. So are you happy with that then, Paul?
No, I thought you were going to go more with the spirit blaze, like spirits, and this but that's so fine.
Perfect.
Let's talk about more about Ghostbusters.
All right, good. You know what? Because I actually have some trivia about Ghostbusters.
Oh, good.
And Paul sort of got ahead of me here, but that's okay. Did you all realize that Gozer was originally going to be played by Paul Rubens of Pee Wee Herman fame, but he turned down the role. In the original script, Gozer took on the form of Ivo Shandor, the ghost building's architect, who starred the original Gozer cult. And he resembled a pale, slender, unremarkable man in a business suit, which is, I think, why they wanted to cast Paul Rubens. Gozer's final form was described as David Bowie meets Grace Jones, which, yeah, Dave Rubens, I think, fits us very well. Eddie Murphy was also originally going to be Winston, as Paul told us, but also turned down the role. So here's my question to you guys. If you had to recast one character from Ghostbusters with anyone else, who would it be? Who would you recast, and who would be who would replace them in that role? Let's start with, since Dallas looks the most like he's not sure, let's start with him first.
Oh, wait a minute. Be mean.
Oh my God. All right. So
you want me to take your place?
Do you volunteer as tribute, Paul?
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
You volunteer as tribute?
Then go for it, Paul.
So, I really think Ernie Hudson did a great job. I think he doesn't get enough credit as the fourth, Ghostbuster there. Unfortunately, if I were to replace anybody, unfortunately, it would be him.
Oh my gosh.
But if I was, I would have loved to see Eddie Murphy in this role.
That would have been interesting, yeah.
But if he still couldn't do it, another person I would have been interested to see it is Arsenio Hall, because he did the voice of Winston in the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, really?
For this character, at least for the first few years of the cartoon.
Okay, cool.
But honestly, the person I would really love to see would have been Richard Pryor. I think he could have done a great job with this role.
I think that could have been I think that would fit really well. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, but I'm sort of with Bobo says, am I crazy for liking that Eddie Murphy wasn't in this? No, I get that. I think there's almost like, I think he had a lot of star power in this time, and he may have I don't know if there have been conflict, but I think that may have made it.
I think he could have added to the comedy.
Yes. Well, yeah, I agree with that.
But I think he would have clashed with Eddie Murphy. I mean, not Eddie Murphy. I think he would have clashed with
Bill Murray. Yeah, that's what
I would love to see it. More drama. Let's go.
Yeah, maybe. And so Ashley agrees with Bobo. Anyway, okay. So Paul, you thought Arsenio Hall or Richard Pryor and the Winston character. Dallas, who would you exchange for a different actor?
Change out Rick Moranis with Bobcat.
With who?
Oh no,
Bobcat.
Oh man,
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like Bobcat, but I like Rick Moranis better.
I like this is my problem. I think the cast was almost perfect, so I don't want to change out anybody. But if anybody, was put somebody who's not going to jack up the story too much.
All right, that's
that's in the script. Not
hasn't Rick Moranis suffered enough?
I'm sure
too soon.
I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but in case you don't, or you listeners don't know, originally John Candy, I believe, was given this role.
Yeah,
but he said, "You know what? No, I think my friend Rick Moranis would be way better for this." So just a great exemplar of how great John Candy was, but that's not who I would change. That's interesting that you said Bobcat Goldthwait for Rick Moranis. David, who would you switch out?
Well, if I have to pick one, let's switch out for Egon. Let's put in Christopher Lloyd.
Oh,
that's a good choice.
Well played. I like it. That would have been really interesting. Awesome.
Although Harold Ramis does such an excellent job.
He does.
Character.
I mean, like Dallas said, you don't really want to replace any of these people.
Yeah. That's a good choice.
Yeah. Before we get to Tiny, let's see. I think who said? Oh, Star Fox says Chris Rock. LOL with Bill Murray. That would be crazy. That would have been crazy. I agree.
What about MC Hammer?
What? I don't think Chris Rock or MC Hammer was quite in their
prime
game
right then?
yet in '84.
I don't think
he
Chris
did the
Rock
music
was.
for Addams Family 10 years later.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, then give it to him then. All right, Tiny. Who would you change?
I might be teasing my tragic maker just a little bit here, but I would have swapped out whoever played Gozer for Michael Berryman. He's the creepy looky dude from Hills Have Eyes.
I don't know that
I
guy.
haven't seen that, but I believe it.
Sure.
I'd even like to see Paul Rubens in that, just for out of curiosity.
He's that guy.
Oh, that's creepy.
Oh, he looks like Sloth a bit from.
Yeah,
He
a little
does
bit,
look
little
like
bit.
Sloth.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious. Sloth comes out of the pyramid.
You know, I almost wonder if David Bowie would have made for a good Gozer. I think that
That
was
would
the-
have
I thought it
been
was
amazing.
David Bowie at first. When he came out,
yeah.
like, what's David Bowie on screen?
Yeah, I think that would have been way more interesting, but alas. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for all those responses. Those are really, I really liked sort of getting a sneak into your psyche of who would you have swapped
Oh,
out.
don't look in there. But anyway, yes, great trivia, Francisco.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
All right, so, and I have the answer to our previous audience question, which
Ooh.
again was, what is your favorite Will Smith movie?
Well, you know what? We only got one response this time. And
Dang
that
it, I tried to
comes-
make it an easy question.
Yeah, no one likes Will Smith, Paul. Maybe he should have been in Ghostbusters. Started his career off as a kid. I guess he'd be like a young kid. I don't know. But we got one response from the one, the only Dustin Warford. So he,
Yeah.
Now has a
So is he
chance-
back on his winning streak?
yes, and he said we were right to shame him for not sending in a response last time. That's okay. His favorite movie, Will Smith movie, is The Pursuit of Happiness. It showed Will Smith's a range from not just being the comical or action-packed actor, but he tapped into his emotional and dramatic side. And the movie hits you in all the feels. Fantastic film. I remember really liking The Pursuit of Happiness. So congratulations, Dustin. We'll be getting you, you get a free Twitch subscription to our Twitch channel, which gives you our emotes. And as long as you're subscribed, you'll get, whenever I put out the bonus content for the podcast, you get that as well.
All right. So here is this episode's listener question. And you know, let's just ask the listeners the same question that we asked ourselves.
Oh.
If you had to recast one character from Ghostbusters with anyone, who would it be? And why?
By the way, you notice I didn't say what other actor. You guys could have said I recast
Myself.
Venkman with Abraham Lincoln if you want. I don't know. It's fine.
Yeah, because he's
Abraham
a ghost.
Lincoln, Ghostbuster.
Exactly. Or it's
What was the Vampire Hunter?
that's
Yeah.
He
true.
was. That's true.
Gosh, guys.
I don't think he was actually cast in that movie.
You know
though.
what?
I think an actor played him.
Moving on, send your answers of that question, who would you recast, to trivia@retrorewindpodcast.com by the time we record the next episode, which usually gives you a week and a couple days. But now that we have all had some trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, our awesome rewinders, had about Ghostbusters. Starting off the memories, Kristen Rich Victor, James Felix, and Jeffrey William all posted GIFs of their memories. And Jeffrey also added a pic of his proton pack toy and said, the monster in the fridge scene, Marshmallow Man was my fave. I used to have a glow in the dark thing that I would throw down and step on, and a thing that opened a door. So all those were his memories.
I remember those.
Of,
I won one of those.
You won one of those?
I wanted one of those.
Oh, wanted one of those.
Oh.
Awesome.
If I remember the proton pack, didn't it have like a little crank on it that you would twist
and
and it would make the little noodle things swirl?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Even on the toys, I think
The
it was similar
toys.
to that.
Yeah, the action figures.
The action, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Steve Hamilton says Miley Cyrus as the villain was perfect casting. I love the scene where they were talking about end times in the Ecto-1. And also the Twinkie science talk was awesome as well. Slimer stole the show. So I think that was the Paul Rubens character he's talking about, the Miley Cyrus.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
I think he's making
Gozer, the Destructor.
I made another funny. Ha ha ha. Ghetto Kids Preacher said that's a big Twinkie, indeed.
Yeah. Tell him about the Twinkie. Patrick Kramer says, yeah, I rank this one with The Princess Bride, a virtually flawless film.
Ooh. Michael Fraley says, I love this show. I just got to enjoy it with my eldest child last week. I will always love how Egon inches away from the unlicensed nuclear accelerator he just switched on in the elevator. Yeah, that's a great moment.
Kevin Joshua Burnham says, I'll just keep this to myself because that's how I roll.
Interesting. David Bobke says, this film wins me over from the very first scene. As the offspring of one who worked in a library, I'm a big fan of seeing middle-aged women getting the crap scared out of her by ghosts ruining a perfectly good card catalog. Intensely well executed. How could you make a movie with this premise any better? Definitely a classic for so many reasons. Among them, one of the best theme songs of all time. Great characters, especially Venkman. So many quotable lines. I love all the Second City performers. Is that like Rick Moranis? Is he Second City? Okay. Working their magic, showing the world what they could do. I am hard-pressed to come up with something I don't like about this film. Hashtag there are no bad parts, only Zool.
Nice.
Gerari, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but anyway, he says, never cross the streams when standing at the urinal. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you made me read that.
Wardale White says, Carl getting slimmed. Carl getting slimmed? All right.
Bill Murray from Caddyshack.
That's his name. Okay. Yeah. I see. I remember a stellar cast starring in a stellar movie. Even New York City looked good. Even if a big marshmallow man stepped on that church. Also, something on a church in our town. Also, great special effects. That's right, Dale. They were.
Ashley Crowenbitter. Who's she?
Oh, I wonder.
Says the epic line. There
is no Dana, only Zool.
She goes on to say in a slightly higher voice, an all-star cast and very enjoyable film. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is iconic.
Mm-hmm. Ryan R. Jackson says, don't cross the streams. And maybe there are good reasons for not even streaming this film. So I think given that, let's bust Ghostbusters with the things we think it does wrong. Time for our...
Was 3.
And I
think that would be extraordinarily dangerous.
Well, danger is my middle name. Darkwing Duck. Let's start with Tiny this time. What's something you don't like about Ghostbusters?
Honestly, there is not a lot of stuff I don't like about this film. But if I'm pressed to name something, maybe the plot felt a little bit rushed.
Ooh,
and the movie really isn't like, I mean, it's an average movie length.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seemed like there was maybe such a focus on jokes and humor, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe some of the more plot elements, like, hey, there's this, evil demigod coming. It seemed like it was kind of maybe rushed a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
that's a nitpick.
No, that's fine. That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, where would you have liked to have seen them spend more time? Is it like researching Gozer? Because it does seem like all of a sudden Venkman just like, oh yeah, we researched it. And
yeah. He was like, hey, yeah, I guess I didn't have Google then, but I did a look. I looked this up and I found this out, but it was all like very, very quickly. And maybe there could have been, I don't know, I have no idea. Maybe the library scene, maybe that could have been some character or somebody looking up Gozer or something. I don't know. It just seemed kind of rushed.
It would have been nice if they, what I would have loved as like a after credits scene. I know they didn't do a lot of those back then, but them going back to the library and capturing that librarian ghost. I think that would have been nice, like a little bookend. Let's see. Let's go to David next. What's something you didn't like about this film?
Well, I seem to be a parrot tonight, so I'm echoing Tiny about some of the explanations.
I like the way you think.
Does anybody know what PKEs are? For the PKE meter? Does anybody know what it is without looking it up?
Paranormal kinetic electrolysis?
Anybody else?
No. I know QTE is a QuickTime event in a video game. Does it have something to do with that?
It's psychokinetic energy.
Yeah.
They could have, when he's talking at the beginning, Egon went over there to measure psychokinetic energy. According to the meter, he buried the needle. That he could have explained what PKE was instead of saying he took PKE readings without explaining it.
Right. Thanks for
the explanations only seem to be there when it was fun, like don't cross the streams or don't look in the trap or it.
because probably the average audience doesn't really care about PKEs or Zool's history or anything. That's why they didn't go into
But
it.
I feel like that builds out the world a bit more. Like contributes
Then
to
get
the
an
lore
encyclopedia.
What are you gonna? They didn't have encyclopedias to
I
movies,
had to find PKEs on the Ghostbuster Wikipedia.
There you go.
which they didn't have back then. Paul.
They had Britannica.
Okay,
You know, they were still using card catalog. Did you see? I remember when that very first scene when they walked by the Dewey Decimal thing. I'm like,
oh yeah.
Kids today, I would have to pause that and explain to my kid. That's how you used to have to find books back in the day.
Crazy.
That and microfish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, microfish. Jeez Louise.
I had to
bring that
explain
to
microfish to somebody the other day on their stream.
Oh really?
I was like, your brother, dude.
Oh really? my brother or Paul's brother?
Yeah.
Whose brother? Oh, he should know that.
That's what spies were after.
Exactly, Paul. And what's one thing you despise about Ghostbusters, Paul?
All right.
That was a
I'm
joke.
gonna-
See, is a play on the word spies?
That was very clever.
Oh, thanks.
I'll give you sympathy points. Anyway.
Full marks for bravery.
Yes. I'm gonna come across as the prude one here, but let me set this up. One of the things that I like most about this film was that they took this film seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever look at, if you find a home video that has the deleted scenes in it, a lot of the deleted scenes were a little more on the goofy side. And I thought the short dream sequence, if you remember that,
Yes.
it was a little, let's put it this way, it was a little more on the goofy side, and I think the film would have been better if that little thing was cut out.
Mm-hmm. I almost want to feel like that was cut out of TV. Like
it probably was.
Like you only see him fall
I
out
saw
of
it
bed.
this week, and that scene was cut out.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't think it's necessary, really. I think it's a bit. I think it is a bit too silly.
I don't think the film benefits from it. That's me personally.
Yeah,
I understand.
No, I agree. I actually agree.
There are people that would like it and actually think it makes the movie better, but I think in general, the general audience,
it did feel a little left field.
Yeah. And I think what they're trying to evoke is that they're like busting ghosts so much because busting makes you feel good, but they're just doing so much that's all they can, like they're dreaming it, they're experiencing it, like that's all they know, but they could have done it in a better way, I think, than go for the exactly, then go for the risque humor. All right, Paul.
Yeah, it was like, hey, look at all these ghosts we're catching, and oh, by the way, Ray is he's a little bit of a perv.
Exactly. Let's see. Let's go to Dallas next. What's something you didn't like about Ghostbusters?
Okay. What I didn't like was actually the final portion of the film when they're going to fight Zool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who was like directing things and setting up times and shots and everything.
Ivan Reitman.
How long was this fight? They show up midday one day.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the fight takes place during nighttime. And you know it's nighttime because after the clouds disperse, there's still stars in the sky. And then does it take them a whole 8 hours to come back down the stairs?
It was dawn. Dispersed at dawn, and then it took them a while to get back down. It was the next morning.
I thought it was all in real time and that the sky grew dark. That's all.
Oh,
because when I see you but the next morning, like you come back downstairs, it's like bright sunshine.
But here's the thing. In I think you have almost like the crucifixion scenario where the day turns to darkness. Because they're talking about those end time stuff. So
yeah, but that goes to Dallas's point. How long were they? The real question is how long did it take them to climb those stairs all the way to the top?
That's a great question. Also,
well,
that's a great question too.
Let's see. Bill Murray was in Groundhog's Day for 10,000 years. So
all night. Yeah, they were there all night. Yeah.
All I know is this fight scene was longer than one from House of Flying Daggers.
No, it was not. It was not that long.
Changed.
Okay, Dallas. But okay, but that's just the timing of it seemed like way too long to you.
It just it took me out for a second because it was daytime, nighttime, all of a sudden it's daytime again. It was just it threw me out for just a second.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
What a
Something
horrible night for a curse.
Okay, Simon. Something I didn't like doesn't relate to those really in any way. But I felt this, as much as we all mentioned we like the effects, or at least a lot of us mentioned we like the effects of this movie. One of you brought up the demon dogs. And yeah, when they were real, when they were like life size, it seems like, and you only saw half of them, like their front paws and head moving and stuff, those look so good. But you contrast that with the stop motion, which just looked so that
was so terrible.
Yeah, it was not.
It's the 80s. Come on.
I know it's the 80s, but even I don't know who worked on this, but I don't know if like someone like Ray Harryhausen,
Academy Award special effects winner,
could have done better. But I mean,
I bet Jim Henson could have made some really cool, really sweet demon dogs.
I agree with you there, or even Stan Winston. Stan Winston was working around this time too. So
how do you know he didn't? You don't know who did.
Fine, Paul. Fine, you got me there. I don't know who did it. But
they needed some classes.
It did not look great. I mean, as much as other effects hold up, that one certainly does not. So that was,
you know what did look good? The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man costume. I want that. Have you seen the behind the scenes with the guy in the costume?
No.
That is like the best Halloween costume ever.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, with that big tank on his back.
Yeah,
he has a tank on his back. What?
Well, the guy in the suit had a big tank in his back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why would you? Like, does he pick up I don't remember there being military tanks there.
No, he's talking about an aquarium tank.
oh, you mean like a air tank?
Like oxygen tank.
Oh,
yes.
no. I really thought like he picked up a tank and put it on his back to like shoot or something. I'm like, whoa, that would have been amazing. Why didn't you do that? Okay.
That'd be a sweet mini boss in a video game.
Exactly.
That would be it, man.
I'm going to take a moment here and pause since we have our resident kaiju guy here, Dallas, with us. Is Stay Puft Marshmallow Man considered kaiju?
Ooh, good question.
I would consider him kaiju.
All right.
So
I think so too.
I think most
Good enough
people,
for me.
because he's a more spiritual than anything else. I don't think most people, kaiju fans, would claim him.
But still,
Okay.
I feel like
they won't even claim Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Well, see, Clifford's when you get Stay Puft is like skyscraper, like small skyscraper height. Clifford is not that high. Clifford is house high. So I wouldn't consider Clifford
That's a
kaiju.
big dog, man.
That's yes, but it's not a kaiju.
Yeah, that's like saying Jabba the Hutt's big, but he's not a kaiju.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
What kaiju monster would you put up against Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
Oh well, I think anyone could beat him. Really, like Godzilla, Mothra.
Yeah,
anybody that can fry him.
Well, I think what you
Yeah,
really need is a
that's what
kaiju monster that breathes fire. So
Yeah.
there's like s'mores for the entire island of Mad Hatter.
Yeah.
Godzilla. And if you ever, I don't know if it's even possible, but Francisco and I were talking about Ready Player One, and I brought up the part that they could improve on Ready Player One is during that race scene where they have the T-Rex and King Kong in there. It's like, just make it a full kaiju battle. Put Godzilla roasting the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in there.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
That
would be
so
amazing.
great. But T-Rex, not kaiju. Anyway. You know what? As much as we would have loved to see kaiju and stuff in this movie, or I mean, not really, but like actually, it would have been cool to see another big. It would have been cool to see the Statue of Liberty fighting Stay Puft. Like if Stay Puft came back in the sequel, I think that would have been awesome. Anyway, I digress. That's Ghostbusters 2. Let's get into our tragic makers for Ghostbusters. The things that like really bring this movie down. The things we'd really like to bust out of it if we could. And I'll start us off because you might think is silly, but I just don't get it. This is one of those where like, where is your logic here? Okay, before you get the whole EPA person and stuff like, oh no, it might be right after the EPA guy comes at the start, and Venkman comes down and says, "How's the grid holding up?" And the containment grid that they keep all the ghosts in, And he's like, not good. It's getting approach. I think he says like it's approaching full levels or something like that. I'm like, okay, build another one. Why is this an issue?
How hard is that? That would take forever.
They're swimming in money. I'm sure they can do it just fine. They built the first one without any issue.
No, are you talking about, okay, the Environmental Protection Agency is not going to allow them. They would shut that one down too.
Obviously, they didn't even get permits to begin with because otherwise the EPA wouldn't come by anyway.
But they weren't expecting him to come and shut it down. Once they shut it down, it's too late.
No, not after they shut it down. This is when the EPA guy comes twice. First to say, hey, can I please see?
Yes.
And then he leaves. Then Venkman, I think, goes down and talks to Egon about it. And that's where Egon says, yeah, it's not looking good. It's getting really full. So that's what I'm saying. Okay, why is that an issue, though? You just build another one into the wall right next to it.
They probably were, but ran out of time.
Uh-huh.
In the animated series, the containment unit was actually another dimension that they put the Ghost in.
Okay, so then why is there even a space issue?
Exactly. There shouldn't be.
Whatever. Okay. So that was my Tragic Maker. That just did not fly with me. Tiny, what didn't fly with you about this film?
I thought the final battle with Gozer, the Destructor, was a bit of a letdown.
What?
I mean, Gozer was, she's been built up, or he's been, whatever, they've been built up as this huge evil creature, and then it's just like 80s punk chick shows up. It was a letdown for me. They needed a scarier final boss.
So that it turned into a Stay Puff. But just her initial form was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Why are you all bubbly?
Did she fall asleep in like Destructor class or something? That was like the worst final form she could have picked, in my opinion.
Wait, the Stay Puft?
No, Ray picked it.
Yeah, Ray picked the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
But I'm talking about Gozer, like the
girl,
80s punk
just
lady.
Just trying something different. She's trying to be David Bowie,
I guess.
Seeing what that's like.
I think it would have been cooler if she like came in like these really crazy robes with like spikes and stuff. Like looked like she came out of Babylon or something. I think that would have made a lot more sense than
and maybe like scary glowing eyes or something. Maybe some sharp teeth.
Red.
She wasn't scary.
She wasn't. Really
she looked like she was fixing to put on a concert.
That's true.
Yeah, well, after. I think after she took Dominion, she was planning on doing a concert. Yeah, that's
okay.
To celebrate.
But, okay, so according to Tiny...
All right. This chick is toast!
That's what I would have said, too. I'd have been like, get out of here, you Final Fantasy character. I'm not afraid of you.
Gosh. Okay, let's go to Dallas next. What was your Tragic Maker for Ghostbusters?
Well, you took mine actually.
I did? Oh.
The whole like the running when the dogs were running and then the animation that just was moving, that was terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with the you kind of touched on it a little bit, but like the financial aspect of everything doesn't add up in my head. Like they're complaining like they don't have enough and they don't have any funding or anything like that. And they're like, well, where did you find money to do all this? And then they're
Ray's
like, oh,
house.
we don't have.
They took a
we
mortgage.
don't have money for all this stuff
on Ray's house.
And like I'm looking at the corner of the scene and like they're complaining about they barely had enough money to buy the cheap Chinese food from down the street. Yet they have like 3 arcade games right there in the back.
Yeah,
they have, like,
that's what they spent it on. That's why they don't have it
They're
anymore.
not good money managers.
Totally worth it.
And I would have felt like as like
Pac-Man is not that important.
Oh, come on.
And there was they have enough brains to build this massive like containment center. Kind of what Francisco was saying. Like if they had them, like they're raking in the money, they would have gone, we should probably build another one, guys. Like why? Nothing made sense here.
They were doing it so quickly, the funds haven't fully transferred yet.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, direct deposit back then was really slow.
Well, yeah, they had wiring money on the Pony Express, but seriously, they're out busting ghosts all the time. That's why they had to hire another person. They were doing that, focusing on that rather than building ecto-containment units.
And I am curious what the time frame difference between like when they were like, let's do this, and then they started. Like, how long did it take for them to build that containment center? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think like 10 minutes.
It just seemed
Well,
like that.
let's
It's
go
like,
to
oof.
how long the final fight took, and it's about that time frame.
Do you think they may have been working on some of this at the university before they got fired?
That's what
Because
I'm wondering.
Yeah, I could
because
see
it seems like
that.
out of nowhere, it's like, oh, we got particle accelerators.
Right?
Those aren't
No.
easy to come by.
I feel like they would have
Well,
had that.
Egon did
issue.
say that. Egon did say that he figured he's like when they looked at the library ghost info, he was like, "Wait, I can capture one." So I don't know if they had an idea in place or maybe just theories.
I don't know. It seemed like there are more theories because they didn't have a lot of stuff built. They had some machines there, and I don't know how much of that was custom stuff, but.
Well, I know what he did have.
I collect spores, molds, and fungus.
Thank you, Paul. All right, let's go to David next.
I'm going to have to disagree with whoever said Bakeman because he is my tragic maker. Not Bill Murray. I think he played him great.
Oh, okay.
But Dr. Peter Bakeman was my tragic maker.
Yeah.
How is he part of with Egon and Ray? He puts them down in the library. He introduces Ray as Dr. Stantz, but then says Egon. He puts him down. He's clueless, and you can obviously tell he didn't. How did I put this? We know it wasn't his brain that got him his doctorate.
Right.
A showman, a scientist. I was like, he kind of put me out of the movie in some places.
Yeah, I can kind of see that, but to answer one of your questions, which I thought was kind of strange, out of character, but maybe this is why he's with them, because at the beginning when he's talking to that non-psychic girl, who he's trying to make believe that she is psychic. Ray busts in, it's like, oh, you gotta come with me to the library. We think we seen a ghost. No, the average person would say, forget you, I'm with this girl right now. But he says to the girl, maybe we'll meet later. I'm going to go with these guys. There's some about it where he's going around with these guys. That's why he's around. I think there's like a long history with them.
Yeah.
And I think he does have an interest, but it's like fairly there.
Yeah. I almost.
Well, he tried to stay with the girl.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, Ray, can you come back in 30 minutes? An hour and a half. But did you also, maybe somebody pointed this out to me, and I mentioned it with my memory mold, that actually the experiment he was doing worked on the guy he was shocking. The last one,
time,
he got right.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be a couple more times when he mentioned it, but it looked like it was beginning to work, and he's like, I don't know. Pretty girl.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that guy just got lucky that time. Like it was just a guess, and he's like, "Oh, okay, that random one would have to be right." And it was funny that he still shocked him. I will say that I'm sort of with Paul that I think they have a history together, and I imagine Venkman's gotten to this point where he's sort of jaded by science, and now he sees it like the dean says, you see science as some kind of hustle or dodge. And even Dana says, you're like a game show host. He's very much like he's looking for a way to get paid. But I mean, he has loyalty, I think, to Egon and Ray, which I think that's admirable. But I think he's not as invested, especially until he sees ghosts. Then it's more like, okay, how can we make money out of this? Because he's like, go ahead.
And I was about to say, David, I generally agree with you. Peter is not my favorite character. He's a pompous jerk, but
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
Yeah, back off, Paul. But
my fan fiction theory is that in high school he was actually the cool guy, that he let Egon and Ray hang out with him just because he told them what to do and they did everything he told them to. Wow. And that's just carried over into life.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Paul, why don't you give us your final exam of the thing you hated most about Ghostbusters?
The thing that really took me out of the movie, you said the stop motion of the Zool dogs took you out. For me, it was also some of the special effects.
Oh, okay.
Some of the matte paintings, for whatever reason, I'm older, I recognize them now more, takes me out.
Yeah.
Like one of the full city, you could see the building, and like there's trees along the way, and there's the streets, and there's no cars in the streets moving whatsoever.
I didn't
It's
pick
like,
up on that, but yeah.
but there's certain bits of animation here and there that it's like really kind of dated, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So for a new person watching this, that would definitely help it feel dated.
Do you think they would notice though, unless they're very acquainted with cinema on the whole?
I'll tell you what. My dad actually pointed it out when I was a kid. That's a matte painting.
Ooh.
And I was like, what are you talking about? This looks great. So I didn't have the developed eyes to look for, hard lines where color, it doesn't match quite right. Things like that. Unfortunately, my eyes have grown into that to unfortunately look for that. I don't know why it ruins movies.
Yeah, I agree. I do the same thing. But I think, like you were saying, people that are new to this, I don't know if they would necessarily pick up on that. But I don't know. But I could see how that would be a tragic maker, just those effects that take you out of the movie.
Yeah.
But now that we have all entered our targeting information into the firing computer, Alice, do you have a firing solution for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo at the ready. On your mark.
All right, guys. It's time for the moment of truth. Do we rate Ghostbusters a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see this film, whether or not they've seen it before. Or do we rate it nostalgic? If you remember enjoying it as a kid or young adult or whenever you saw it last, if you've seen it before, it's worth revisiting again, especially maybe if it's been a while. Or a tragic, we'd recommend no one see this movie. I mean, maybe we'd even recommend the 2016 version over this, or maybe just some other ghost movie. This isn't worth your time today. Let's start with David from Enthusiast. How do you rate Ghostbusters?
I'm going to rate it a nostalgic. Despite my dislike of Dr. Peter Bakeman, I'm going to rate it nostalgic.
Nostalgic. Okay, and that's what you predicted as well. So nothing seemed to shift for you too much.
Not really. I figured it would be about that.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Let's go to Tiny next. So you had predicted classic. Did it hold true to that, or did it slip for you, Tiny?
I would say classic. I think it's a really, really good movie. Granted, I'm sure there's people out there who won't like it, but if someone doesn't like it, I think the problem is you.
Oh,
did I? Oh, I did something wrong?
No, if anyone doesn't like it, I think that's
You said the problem is me. Because
yes.
I'm the center
you are the problem.
Of the universe. Very fair time.
The viewer, Francisco, the viewer.
Oh, now you're expecting me to think like fifth dimensionally or something. I have a real problem with that. Dallas, what is your final rating?
I struggled with this. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you had nostalgic.
I talked it out, and I smiled and laughed the entire time of this movie, and it wasn't enough for me to go, this is not good. I'm gonna rate it classic, man.
Classic.
I have legitimately not seen this movie since I was probably 15 years old.
Whoa.
And I'm like, this is a good movie.
Do you think you got more of the humor this time around than you would have at 15?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there are things I caught, like even like when Bill Murray's character Venkman was giving the cost, like how much this is going to cost. I hadn't noticed before. Egon is showing his fingers the numbers, telling him how much to charge. Yeah. Oh, it's going to cost you $4,000, but we haven't. So there's little subtle things to look for.
Absolutely. And Paul, why don't you subtly give us your final rating?
Even though that I said some of the effects were dated, I think honestly this movie would hold up today if it weren't for the effects. Like if they were to put it out in theaters, I think it would do well. So I'm rating it a classic.
All right.
I recommend this movie to anybody who has or has not seen it.
Gotcha. For me, I'm kind of like, I was very much in Dallas's boat there. I was surprised. I was smiling the whole way through. I don't recall if I ever gave
quotable.
A big guffaw or like out loud chuckle, because I'm very familiar with it. I saw it a lot growing up. But I was just like, this is fun. I just like this movie. It's really good. So for that, I'm gonna rate it a classic.
Yay.
So according to the Retro Rewind podcast, we rate Ghostbusters a mostly
Just slightly disputed.
Thank you. That's the word I'm going for. Slightly.
Mostly.
So according to the Retro Rewind podcast, we rate Ghostbusters a slightly disputed classic film. We'd recommend anyone go see this, whether or not you've seen it before. And yeah, we'll leave it at that.
It's mostly classic.
It's mostly classic. But how about...
It's better than the 2016 remake.
Oh, shots fired.
Still haven't seen that one.
Me either. But now let's mostly get back to good old 20XX.
20XX?
Comsat online. Receiving incoming transmission.
Feels good to be back. And I will say, Bobo and Ashley in chat also added to that they thought Ghostbusters was a classic. Thank you for adding in there. But we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1984 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Jared Holzhauer, Deborah Powers, Brian Keating, Patrick Hicks, LJ Lowry, Chris Callan, the Film Podcast, Chris Owens, Geek Devotions. Hey, one of you is right here. The Untold Podcast, Mrs. Lomax, James Kennison, Daryl Hafner, Kevin Joshua Burnham, Drew of the Cellcast, Ashley Cronenbitter, Pastor Dewson, Kennethan, Redeemed Dutaku, Ryan Lingle, and that's our Bobo. In addition to 5 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to help keep us flying for as little as $1 a month and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to retrorewindpodcast.com/support to help us grow via Patreon or Subscribestar.
Also,
this stream is sponsored by PaulJPowers.com.
Thanks, Dallas, for being here.
Glad to be here.
And while we're thanking our supporters, we want to give a big Stay Puff hug to our subscribers on Twitch, which is another way to send us a couple bucks a month. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free. You can find out how at retrorewindpodcast.com/Twitch Prime, where Francisco has a cool little video to help guide you through that.
But hey, let's keep the gratitude train going now because we love hearing from you, be it our Apple podcast reviews, comments on our website, or through our contact form. And here's what one of you had to say through that very contact form.
Okay, I'm going to read an abridged version of what Nick wrote us recently. He starts off by saying, "Hi guys, my name's Nick, and a while back I stumbled across a movie I'd never heard of. It completely blew me away, and so ever since I've been desperately trying to convince everyone across the movie fandom to give it a shot and hopefully drag it out of complete obscurity. The movie's called The Beast of War, aka The Beast, from 1988. It was directed by Kevin Reynolds, starring George I don't know. Jason Patrick and Stephen Bauer.
Bauer, I think?
Bauer, maybe? I don't know. Ask Jack. It was only released in 2 screens across the whole U.S. by Columbia Pictures. And I kid you not when I say this is the best Hollywood film you've never heard of. Ooh. Please seek out this film. It's available on DVD and streaming, so it won't be difficult to track down. And if you do see it, let me know if you agree with me that this might be one of the 10 best American movies of the 1980s. One way or another, we need to find a way to raise this movie's profile and prevent it from continual obscurity once and for all. Just check out the trailer. Thank you." Wow, Francisco. People have movie recommendations and you want to keep it?
What? Yeah. Why?
You want to promote it?
Why not? I thought that was nice that they reached out to us to help promote this.
Yes.
I watched.
Okay.
The trailer.
Reach out to us for anything, and Francisco will post about it and have me go on this long tirade about it.
Do you use the Flowbee? Have you ever tried the Magic Bullet blender? Let us know, and we'll talk. Oh my gosh!
All right.
I'm curious. Has anyone seen this film or heard of it here?
No, I have not.
Big no's from everyone.
And it might. I'm wondering, it could be a movie promoting the Beast like the Antichrist. I don't know. What are you doing, Francisco?
It's not that. I watched the trailer. It's about it's a World War something 2 maybe movie. It's about a tank that's stuck in the desert, and it's like this chief officer of the tank is really like a bad guy, and people are
Is this tank on the back of a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
It should be. That would make it great. If you want to launch this out of obscurity, do that. But no, so yeah, The Beast of War. It seemed like an interesting movie. But yeah, go seek that out if it sounds interesting.
And that's our Bravo from chat says, fun fact, my mom's current car is named Stay Puffed.
That's
nice.
Very fun.
My mom's car is named Ecto.
You have been a participant in the biggest
nice.
interdimensional cross rip since...
Let's try that again. Yeah,
all right.
Tiny interrupted the interrupter. Dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun.
that's good. Keep me on my toes.
You have been a participant in the biggest interdimensional cross rip since the Tunguska blast of 1909.
Felt great. We'd like to get a sample of your brain tissue.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. So my brain tissue went away a little bit, but retrorewindpodcast.com/211 is still there for you. It is the place to find timestamps for this episode, links to contact us, and links for voting on the movies you want us to review. Very soon, we'll be locking in our Winter Miss episodes. Probably next episode, we'll be locking those in. So get to voting real quick. But that's not the only place you can reach us. Paul, where else can people find the show and also yourself?
PaulJPowers.com. You can find me and the show there. And you know what? Since you're online, you might as well feel free to talk to us and share anything you like or find funny that's 15 years or older. And Francisco will gloriously promote it on the podcast.
If it's through the contact form, I don't read every single thing posted in our group.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So on social media, we are Retro Rewind Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can join our Discord server by going to retrorewindpodcast.com/Discord. And as I have also mentioned, we are on Twitch that apparently is outdated.
No,
so you
no,
can
it's
watch
still
it.
Twitch. It's the thing that allows you to get it for free.
I know. I'm just giving hard time. All right, I'm just busting you. And you know what?
Busting makes me feel good.
You can watch and chat with us live as we record this podcast, play retro video games, and create pixel art by following us at twitch.tv/retrorewindpod. And if you want to find me, again, I'm pauljpowers.com. So go to pauljpowers.com and say hi.
And .com it up. Dallas. Thank you, Paul, so much for being a fellow podcast buster or podcast maker, I guess I should say, friend and co-host. So appreciate getting to do this show with you.
Likewise, and I definitely enjoy this immensely, and I want to thank all our co-hosts for coming on, taking time out of your day to watch the movie and
staying
come
up
on
late.
Here. Yeah, even if you didn't rate it a classic. So let's start with let's start with David, and thank you for coming on. Please tell us how to find you online, and is there anything you'd like to promote?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Enthutheist. That is Ian THUTHEIST. I do a weekly devotional called the Enthutheist Devotional Podcast, spelled Enthutheist, spelled the same way. As of when you hear this, we will have just finished our lessons from some novel monsters, and we would like you to join the Enthusiast Society on Facebook.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
So, David, thank you for joining us, and let's go with another person that begins with the letter D, and that's Dallas. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it was a joy. You guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for Geek Devotions. My wife and I run the show from Devoted Geeks, so devoted to letting you know that you're loved. We take geeky pop culture items like movies, video games, and comic books, and yeah, we just use them as a springboard to encourage people. And most of our stuff is also on YouTube, youtube.com/Geek Devotions, where every Friday we put out a brand new devotion at 4 p.m.
Awesome.
Excellent. And we're also happy to have someone who's proud of his oddity, Tiny.
That's right. You can hear me every single week on the Earth Oddity Podcast. It's a podcast where we just share odd news. We tell jokes. Me and my co-host, John Long. We like to call ourselves the best podcast you've never heard of. You've probably heard of Geek Devotions and Retro Rewind, but maybe you haven't heard of Earth Oddity, so that's us. You can also follow us on Twitter at _Earth Oddity, and it's the same thing on Instagram if you want to check out our show art.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much again. Just like Paul said, thank you for taking time to be on the show, staying up late. I think it's late for all of you guys, but really appreciate you sacrificing that for us, for being a part of the show. Is awesome having you. And I also want to say I want to vouch for each of these guys' shows, and through this devotional podcast, Earth Eye podcast, Geek Devotions, their Com Talk podcast, and also their weekly YouTube channel. They put out great content, fun, informative, engaging, inspiring. Definitely check each one of them out. Paul, you can check it out if you want at pauljpowers.com. Every single time.
I thought you were asking me to check out. Paul, you can check out if you want.
Don't check out, Paul. I need you. I can't do this alone. But as much as I can't do this alone without Paul or without guest hosts, and I appreciate each one of you, you're not who I appreciate the most. That honor is reserved for you. Yes, you listening right now. Ray, Pete, Egon, Rick, Gozer. Whether this is your first
Notice
time.
he didn't say Dana.
Whatever.
There is no Dana.
Oh my gosh. Whether this is your first time listening to the show or you're a part of our Rad Rewinder community, thanks for spending time with us, and we pray you are more joyful now than when you first hit play. I have been and continue to be Francisco Ruiz. Find me on Twitter at FXRetro. At FXRetro _ or Instagram at FXRUIZX, and DM me there for pixel art commissions.
And finally, we are honored to be part of the Christian Geek Central Network at ChristianGeekCentral.com.
You can catch us at CGC or our website, but like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for our next episode of the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to nav point Omega and return to base.
Okay, so I'll see you later, huh? I'll give you a call.
Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Man, it was so awesome getting to team up with you guys. This big group come together like an ensemble. It was awesome.
Yeah, you know what? That reminds me of another time when another group joined together.
What? When was this, Paul?
In the Adventures of Young Indiana Jones.
Then it is something that man was not meant to disturb. Trust me.
Are you making this up as you go along?
Yeah?
You don't believe me. You will, Dr. Jones. Mission accomplished.
Full throttle?
No break. Those people are trying to kill us. I know, Dad! It's a new experience for me.
Happens to me all the time.
Welcome to another installment of Young Indiana Jones, where we're looking at each chapter of this TV show in between our reviews of the movies Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade. We're going to be doing this for 2 years. Buckle up. Usually we do it about once a month. And today, Paul, what episode are we reviewing?
This time we're reviewing Chapter 10 called The Phantom Train of Doom. Now, this episode, you think it's 2 parts, right? But it was actually aired all at the same time as one long episode.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
it did flow really well. Okay.
Oh, really? No, like right in the middle. I thought... I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but I thought, oh, it's over. It's like, no, and then I paused it. It's only halfway through. It's like, oh, no.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and there were a few episodes. Normally, all these episodes are compiled of 2 previous released episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first one of the few that was just one special movie.
Okay, cool. And when did you say when it aired?
No, I didn't. It aired June 5th, 1993.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Now
would you like to give us a 1-sentence plot?
I will give you a 1-sentence plot. Apparently, now I have to combine both in a 1-sentence plot. Okay.
Well, you can try.
So, Indy and Remy, I forget how they get here, but they're now back with the Belgians in Africa, I want to say. And they miss their train a few times. They get lost. They end up at this, I think they're a British forces camp. Again, this is World War I. And they go off and do unbeknownst to them, get drawn into several missions, one against a train and one trying to capture a German colonel that has been evading them for a while. So that's pretty much the synopsis of those episodes.
Yes. Good job.
Thank you. Now, guys, let's go around and say what we enjoyed about this movie. Just like you could give one thing that this episode. I also feel I don't think any of you have been here before for a Young Indiana Jones episode. So let us know if you've ever seen Young Indiana Jones or if this is new to you. So let's start with Tiny. Let us know about your history with Young Indiana Jones and what's something you liked about this episode.
I have actually never seen Young Indiana Jones.
Have you? I should say
this is kind of embarrassing, but I actually forgot to watch this. I forgot we were going to talk about it. So
bum, 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 bum.
The thing I like about it is that it's available on YouTube. I think Paul told me
currently until someone listens to this episode, and then they'll take it down.
The mood.
No, I'm leaving that in. I appreciate the honesty, Tiny. Let's go.
My bad. Sorry.
That's okay. It is available on YouTube. That's really awesome that it's still up there. David, let's go to you. What's your history with Young Indiana Jones, and what did you think? What was something you liked about this?
I had seen some of the episodes, but I watched it back when it was bracketed by the old guy with the eye patch. What I liked about this episode was kind of the throwbacks to Indiana Jones. Like young Indy looks at these old men like, you don't plan? And then like, it kind of reminded me of old, when Indy and Saul were talking and saying, I don't know, I make this up as I go.
Yes. Exactly.
And then the music even had a reminiscent. Was reminiscent, like the ARC. You can almost hear the ARC theme when they discovered the hidden train station.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite catch on to that, but I could see that. Yeah. Very cool.
It wasn't quite the ARC theme, but it was reminiscent of it.
Yeah. I think they did their best to try to have it be the scores always be seemingly of the same world, even though they weren't. They certainly weren't John Williams, or even John Williams. Dallas, why don't you go next?
I have never seen this. When you first told me about this, I thought, okay, maybe this is like the animated series, because like I remember back in the early 90s we had James Bond Jr., the animated series.
Right.
Okay. So I was completely clueless. I will say that this is gloriously the 90s. like you watch this film and I'm having like major flashbacks to when I was a child in the 90s watching television. Like this is something I would have watched on my TV, because it's just gloriously the 90s. It kind of reminded me of the I don't know if you guys remember the Zorro TV series from the 90s.
I remember the black and white
It's
one.
been a while,
the
but
black and
yes,
white
I do
ones.
vaguely remember that.
There was
There was the black and white one,
really?
and there was a 90s one also, and it has a lot of the same feel.
Was that a spin-off of the movies from
Antonio
Banderas?
I don't think so. I have to look it up.
I imagine it'd be actually before those. Well,
I
Dallas
think it was before.
Looking those up, Paul, what's something you liked about this? I know you've seen these.
Yes. This to me had the Indiana Jones feel of when he's like looking and sneaking around. It's kind of like in the Indiana Jones movies where he's sneaking onto submarines or wherever. It has that same feel, that part to it that I enjoyed. And I liked the group of old people. They seemed like it's a nice different flavor to have around, and they seemed like a lot of fun to be around.
Okay.
Granted, they're on their own mission and didn't include him in it, but
so I think this pretty much encapsulates what I thought of this episode. As Paul likes to razz me offline, I don't think you guys really hear it much on these like episodes.
Never.
But, Paul loves to razz me about how I watch these at 2x speed, because they usually just bore me to tears. I'm like, why did I agree to this? And after watching the first part, what I thought was the first part at 2x speed, I'm like, I need to slow this down to 1x because I am enjoying this so much. And I feel like I missed a bunch in the first part with the train. And I just thought it didn't. The only thing missing was some sort of like mystical artifact. Everything else felt this.
Well, the Phantom Train was supposed to be the mystical artifact.
I mean, yeah, it was, and there was a mystery to that, which was cool.
And how did it disappear? They never.
Yeah,
they never answered that.
It did, because the way it was going, it wouldn't have gone back to the base where they went back to. So
they would have seen it go backwards.
Yeah. I that wasn't very clear, but I thought it was cool how it was the secret place, and this whole thing felt the most like Indiana Jones. At least the train part did. And so I was honestly I'll just say I slowed it down because I actually got invested. I love that group of older guys, how they're this hodgepodge. They felt like I've never seen the Dirty Dozen, but I imagine it's similar. It's reminiscent of that, where each guy has their own specialty and brings something to the group. So I really liked it for that.
Francisco, did you recognize the leaders at all?
No, I the guy said he was in a previous episode when he was like young Indiana Jones.
Yeah, when he was in Africa.
Yeah, I
remember with President Taft. I think
I didn't remember.
It was Roosevelt, but did you recognize his voice?
Oh,
I know he's the one in the.
Oh,
I don't think it was. Who? I was wondering about that, but I don't think it is, because that occurred to me. But I'm looking at him. I'm pretty sure it's not. Did you IMDb it and it is him?
I Wikipedia'd it. And
really, it's Belloc who's playing that guy?
I'm pretty sure.
All right, now I'm gonna have to.
Paul's gonna check your work here and do this, but that.
Oh, definitely.
I would not be surprised, because it did sound very much like him. But for those
Belloc.
What did I say?
Okay. No. I was just going off of the Indiana Jones movie. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Sorry.
Also, for those keeping score who are curious, our little bumper intro that I made for this, we finally hit an episode where a clip that I took for Young Indiana Jones is in the episode, because it's like, are you making this up as you go along? Yeah, that's from this episode, Phantom Train. All right, so now let's go around and say something we didn't so much care for about this. Tiny, what didn't you like about this? I'm very curious.
I didn't like that I didn't watch the show.
Okay.
Prepare properly for this discussion. That's what I didn't like.
That's fair. You know what? Let me sidestep though. I'm curious, Tiny, are you a fan of Indiana Jones in general?
All but Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I've never heard of this movie. I think you're making that up. I don't think it's something like that would ever exist.
Right.
Okay, but you like the Indiana Jones property. You like the movies. Okay, very cool.
I do.
Okay, I'm going to ask you after this one follow-up question after we've all gone through this. So be prepared. Okay. Let's go back to Paul. What's something you didn't like about this?
Well, to start off mildly, I didn't like some of the unanswered questions, like where
did the train go?
Huh? Where did the train go? That's one. Yes. When they first got to the camp, he's asking, what's his friend's name? Remy is like, does anything of this look weird to you? Like off? And he's like, yeah, they're all old. And I thought that was going to lead somewhere, like, oh, they're all like a bunch of ghosts, right? Or something. But they never explain that. Like, what? Right. There's. And then
they do explain it. All the people, they say that we're everyone who thinks that we're past our prime. Everyone just wants young guys fighting, but we still have a lot to give. We have a lot of wisdom and experience.
Wow. Someone watched this at 1x speed. No. But what I really didn't like was at the end, which I thought was kind of intriguing at first with the military strategist. He's like, all right, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, well, I could shoot you and then she could shoot me. Mm-hmm. He said, or I could just walk away. And he's like, well, why should we let you? He's like, well, why would you waste the time, on two Belgian people trying to get back So if it were me, if I was a military strategist, as they start walking away, I would take the girl's gun and blow their head off because A, they work for the other side, and B, if they live, that could have killed 20 of his men in the future in a future battle. So he could have saved 20 plus lives just by ending it there as they walked away. So what kind of strategy is that?
Well, here's the thing though, that I think he's still operating under, this is before I think there's any Geneva conventions, but I think you don't just kill prisoners, and the colonel was still a prisoner. The girl wasn't. I could see her killing the girl.
If you're a military strategist, that doesn't fly.
Yeah.
At least according to my strategy. I don't know. I play chess a different way than other people.
At the scene earlier, though, like there's a level of respect he has for the older gentleman.
Yeah.
So he seems to be a character who bases himself off of code, and the fact that Indy kind of was picking up what he was teaching him, almost like a pupil type of thing. He's like,
yes,
I respect that. I respect you as a man.
And I think there's also, I keep having to remind myself, oh, these aren't the Nazis. So I don't, you're not just letting a Nazi go, which I'm sure honestly, if I'm being real, I'm sure there were Nazis that just loved their country, but didn't like what Hitler was doing, but they just were serving because they loved Germany.
And I also, while we're still on me technically, I have a like/dislike that Paul Freeman, who did play Belloc, also played in this episode.
Really? So that wasn't.
So it was Belloc. So yes, good job.
But
I like that he was in it, but I also dislike that he didn't play Belloc. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we talked about this if you heard our last one. I think we expounded on this, how it would have been perfect for Belloc to have been this like ongoing villain that Indy met as a young man that he's then a later on villain, but in the movies.
Well, there were some books in which brought in some of these characters. Like I know Sala was somebody that a young Indiana Jones met. It was kind of set in, but it was set more off the Last Crusade. He had the hat and that type of stuff. So it introduced a couple more characters than this series did.
Yeah.
But by the way, that colonel was a historical figure.
They
met a historical figure.
Okay. I didn't catch his name because I thought, is that the Desert Fox? But the Desert Fox was in World War II. I didn't know if it was
the Desert Lion.
It was what?
The Desert Lion.
Oh, that's who this one was? Okay.
And his right-hand man, the young Adolf Hitler.
Really?
No, that would have been amazing.
Okay. Anyway, David, what's something you didn't like about this episode?
Indy, he is a whiny brat in this one. He is complaining. I've got to get back to my unit. Complaining.
Oh, that's another thing I didn't like. Is Remy fighting with him? Like the whole time, it just added to it. It's just so frustrating. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I can understand Remy because you're going off. I'm being shelled.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not very obedient to his dad either. Right?
Exactly.
Never.
I did enjoy how he kept referencing the colonel. I was like, it is my dad because of the way the colonel acted.
Yeah, that was funny. But something to remember, David, is that this series is building the Indiana Jones character so that he learns to just fly by the seat of his pants. He grows from a whiny. You got to remember, this is also Lucas. You have to grow from a whiny person into someone in charge.
I make it up as you go.
But yeah, I can totally see that, David. It was, I think I'm almost calloused to it that it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah, 10 episodes in now.
but yeah, I could totally see that. Dallas, was something you didn't like?
It's kind of along the lines of Indy, and that's just that it was annoying that he was so annoying. But like, what kind of soldier does the government go, hey, you're a soldier, but he can't tell east from west by looking at the sun? Like they travel all day long and nobody thinks to go, oh, the sun's on the wrong side of the mountain. I mean, what's happening here?
They're thinking about other things. They're the heat stroke.
Yeah. The basic training wasn't as good back then.
I don't know.
It's not like Indiana Jones is a world traveler and would know basic stuff like this.
Right. It just felt very, very convenient for them just to get lost.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of times. And so I didn't like that. Also, I didn't like the fact that all of a sudden I was watching 2 shows at the same time. I didn't realize that this was going to cut one story and pick up an entirely different story. That I was like, where did this come from? Like this, this is a whole new story.
You get used to that.
We didn't warn you about that.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, that's. I think that leaves just me then. The thing I didn't really care for in this movie or series was I almost wish that they had flipped it somehow. I don't know, because I felt like the train was such
more
an interesting story.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I get the idea of you want to lead with the thing that like brings them in, and then you always hope that it's going to stay as good. But I don't know. That sort of ended on a sour, not a sour note, but I like that it ended with Indy and Remy meeting up with the crew again. I almost wish the Colonel bit was more condensed so that they would then go and try to capture him again and actually be successful. Or do something else and be successful, not just end on a failure, essentially.
Yeah, I wondered why they didn't like regroup and try to capture the general again.
Yeah.
That was weird.
It was weird.
I wonder why they lost the balloon. I mean, they're in a car. They could have followed the balloon.
Yeah. I don't get that either. It's very strange. But I think now, guys, I'm going to ask Tiny. This will give us I think this will give us the best encapsulation of a final rating. Tiny, having not seen this, based on what we said, what we liked, what we didn't like, your experience with Indiana Jones, would you seek out seeing this? Do you think, this sounds kind of interesting, I'll see it, or like, no, that's okay?
If it was free, I might check it out if it's free.
Yeah, we watched
Ashley
it for free.
Crowenbitter would say it's not worth an hour and a half of your life taken away.
It's not the machine from Princess Bride. Son, 1 hour of your life away. One day man goes high as 5. Okay, well that's okay, but I'm asking Tiny, not Ashley.
I know, I'm just saying.
As much as I appreciate Ashley's opinion, Tiny. So not so much is what I think you said?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay. Then I still feel like this is one of the best episodes. At least that Demon Train part. Demon Train.
Yeah.
Train of
Phantom
Doom.
Train.
Whatever it's called.
Phantom Train of Doom.
Yes, exactly.
It's another Doom.
Yes, I know. Well, 2020. That makes sense. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. And for me, Tiny, David, Dallas, and Paul. I think did I say Paul, right? Yeah. We wish you all a whoopah.
Whoopah.
Whoopah. Okay. Okay, so that's the end.
Something else I like. Did you catch a few of these?
Way too many. I thought it was overused. Wilhelm.